Hello, everyone, and welcome to Logic Apps Live March 2024. So we have a big group here today. We have Kent and Harold from our team. We have Sebastian Meyer from one of our partners, and also Nidhi and Brian from our engineering team. So we're going to have a lot of things to discuss. Let's take a quick look at the agenda, and then we can start. So for today, we're going to, as usual now, highlight our AC Aviator of the month. Then we're going to talk a little bit about some of the events and community announcements that are coming. Talk a bit about our developer experience, showing some of the items that we're going to be live by the end of next week. And then ask for some feedback. So we're going to have a chance to give feedback at the opportunity on a couple of surveys that we're running. As usual, we have a Q&A both throughout the show, but also at the end. So feel free to add your information on the chat, or if you have anything to ask or any comments about what you're seeing here, please add that to the chat and we can work on that. So let's start with some of with the AC Aviator for the month, right? So this year we're highlighting Luis Regueira, and he's the integration developer at DevScope, right? One of the things that we really like to do to make sure that he constructs teamwork is making sure that always works with a positive communication, and making sure that the people in the work environment are nurtured. So his quote, or how he thinks about career advancement or career path is: if our passions no longer ignite us, or if our efforts to chase them lead nowhere, it might be a sign to let it go, not in defeat but in liberation. So in the end, what you wanted to do is be happy with a career path that you actually get fulfilled, so that you choose, right? If you wanted to see a little bit more about his interview and what we had this month on announcements, both from the community and from Logic Apps team, go to aka.ms/logicappsaviators/Mar 2024 or Mar 24. So thanks, Luis, for the contributions. We've been seeing a lot of your content lately, and that's been quite helpful for us. So let's jump into some of the events and community announcements. We have a couple of events that are coming up, and we also have a new community initiative that we're going to be talking soon. Let's start.
Okay, thank you, Wagner. So let me quickly start with the Toronto Automation and Integration Day on April 25th at the Microsoft office in downtown. I'd love to bring this in-person event that we've been organizing for some time already, and this is built upon the success of a similar event that we arranged in Calgary, in the city of Calgary last December. So, do you mind going to the next one, Wagner? Thank you. So, what is the Toronto Automation and Integration Day? You're gonna have to hit. You're gonna have to hit the signal line. Thank you. What is the Toronto Automation and Integration Day? So this is a day of learning and networking focused on Microsoft automation and integration technologies. Is there a cost? No, there is not a cost to attend. What is the format? This will be only in person. Will it be recorded? No. We are looking forward to see you there. Who will be speaking in the event? You're going to have Logic Apps product managers. I will be presenting. Kent from the team is presenting as well. He's flying from Calgary. And we are very fortunate also in having a Power Automate Group engineering manager and a great friend. His name is Sufyan Lukili. He's joining us from Redmond. And two of our great partners, MNP and Horton Cloud, and some customer organizations. How do I register to the event? The link is aka.ms/Toronto. And what is the agenda? We're going to start with a welcome, some keynotes, talk about some customer showcase. There will be a lunch, a networking. We will provide the lunch. partner showcase. There will be a breakouts to talk about roadmap, to talk about features and capabilities of both products, Azure Logic Apps and Power Automate, and some closing remarks. Can you hit next, Wagner, please? Yes, so there will be closing remarks, event close and networking, and then just as a reminder, the link to register to the event is aka.ms/Toronto on April 25th at the Microsoft Canada head office in 81 Bay Street, Toronto. We are so looking forward to wait for you to see you there, and I'm sure that you're gonna enjoy the show. Okay, thank you, Wagner.
Thanks, Harold. And Kent, do you want to talk about the Integrate?
Sure, sounds good. So much like previous years, Microsoft will be participating in the Integrate event. So this is a sort of an event we look forward to every single year, where the world comes together and we talk about integration-related topics itself. So we will have representation from the Logic Apps team. We'll also have representation from the Azure messaging team, the API management team, the API Center team, and then naturally some community experts. So you see many of those MVPs, Microsoft MVPs that live and breathe integration every single day. So one thing to note is that these the best time to buy these tickets was kind of today or yesterday, because there's always a early bird special. So the earlier you go ahead and subscribe, the lower the cost will be. There will be both an online option if you can't make it to London, and there's obviously an in-person option as well. So do go ahead and check out Integrate 2024. We've got the schedule posted. We've got all of the speakers and the session abstracts posted there as well, and looking forward to seeing you all there.
Thank you. So let's go and to our next announcement, and that's a different one. So we have a new community group being created called Aviators Germany, and to talk more about that, I would like to bring Sebastian Meyer here to the show. Sebastian, do you want to introduce yourself before we go to the next slides?
Yes, I will do it. Thank you, Wagner, and thank you also for having me on the show today. My name is Sebastian. I'm the community host of the Aviators Germany, and I'm also a lead architect for Quibic, an integration-related company in Germany.
Okay, so let's go. All yours.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, long story short, we are live. We are super excited and yeah, super happy to have it done. The German chapters or the German chapter of Aviators is live, and we are very happy to be the first German community with a focus on integration technology from the Microsoft stack, so Azure Integration Services, BizTalk, and so on. So everyone is welcome to join the community and to talk about integration, share knowledge, and so on. And if you want to start your own chapter, please feel free to contact me. I'm willing to support if you have questions to start. Can you show up the next slide, please? Thank you. Yeah, we started in November last year, and right now we have the following 3 channels. First is our blog, where you can read, where you comment, and where you can also write your own articles to share your knowledge. And you will find it at aviators-germany.de. The second one is our newsletter, where we want to share news from the community and also from the product group. And you can subscribe at aka.ms/AG newsletter. And last but not least, our meetup group, where we want to plan primarily in-person meetups. You will find this, and you can join this at aka.ms/AG LinkedIn. Can you go up to the next slide? This is a very exciting announcement I want to make here. Our first meetup will be placed in Hamburg on Thursday, the June 13th. And you can subscribe for this or on aka MS AG meetups. And we have a special guest on this meetup to kick off the German chapter, and this will be Kent. So thank you, Kent, for coming to our first meetup and to kick it off. And this is very exciting for us, and we are super happy to have you there. So, and then the last one, Wagner, please. So, as I mentioned earlier, please use all the channels to get in touch with the community and be part of this community. We are open for everyone, so please feel free to join the Aviators Germany community. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Sebastian. It's really good to see the community growing and the community growing by the community, right? Because it's important to say that we giving full support to the Aviators Germany, but it's something that is the brainchild of your team, the community in Germany. Yeah. So it's really good to see that starting to happen, which is exactly what we wanted in the beginning, is starting to foster the integration community in a way that we can start sharing content, sharing experiences and everything. So absolutely. Thanks for that initiative.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to be talking a little bit about some of our developer experience updates. And what we're going to be showing here is something that we show briefly in our integration day last year, but now we are ready to run that as a public preview as early as the end of next week, right? And what we're talking is about the automation of deployment scripts with the Logic Apps code extension. So in here, I'll talk a little bit about what is our objectives with that, the things that we're doing to help with this process, and then we're going to be bringing Brian Land to do a real live end-to-end demo, right? So since the beginning, when you're thinking about the DevOps and thinking about the developer life cycle from Logic Apps to Standard, we're thinking about trying to get a bit of separation from concerns from the start. And the places where we see we could do that and starting to gear the code that we're implementing for Logic Apps, the workflows, to be able to be moved into different environments is by making sure that our connections are parameterizing from the beginning, so you're not locked into what you did on the code and having to fend for yourself to then make those changes before you push to other environments. The other area that we always thought that would be quite useful for the customers, because most of the time, the developers, although have expertise in Azure, they don't need it to be like infrastructure engineers to create those deployment scripts. So we're creating and providing a way for you to, from the tool, generate those deployment scripts. And because we know that a lot of people is using DevOps or Azure DevOps as their platform, we thought that creating a first-class Azure DevOps task would be another thing that would be quite useful for customers. And of course, by creating those tasks, we using them as part of our auto generation process, right? So when you're talking about connection parameterization, what we're doing here is parameterizing that connections.json file that we all know, but not always love. With especially when you're talking about Azure managed connections, functions connections, or API connections, those connections now are fully parameterized, so you can take advantage of that when you're moving that to different environments. And this parameterization is going to be done at connection creation, and Brian is going to be showing you that if you have projects that are already in flight, you're still going to be able to take advantage of this feature. It uses a combination of parameters and app settings in a way that you know where to go to find out all the information, but making sure that the data that needs to change in runtime is available in a place, in this case in the app settings, so you don't have to change your package just to make changes on that environment. From the deployment scripts point of view, our first click stop is creating the deployment scripts for your infrastructure based on ARM templates, right? And that is going to help us to create both the Azure Managed Connections, which is something that is it's its own resource on Azure, and the Logic Apps infrastructure, that is the Logic Apps application itself, plus all the dependencies that comes with that, storage, the app service plans, for example. We are also creating a set of DevOps pipelines so you can automate the deployment of the infrastructure, of your build, and of your release with the CI/CD pipelines. And finally, we are also creating a cloud parameters file so you can have a different a set of configuration between your local parameters and your cloud parameters. And we're taking advantage of that to make some of the configuration changes that are required for Azure Managed Connections as well. With that in mind, right, you guys don't want it to hear from me, you wanted to see that in action. So you're going to bring Brian to the screen, and you're going to share your screen, Brian. So all yours.
Hi, everybody. Today, let's just start with a project that doesn't have parameterization. So I have a few Logic App workspaces here just to kind of demonstrate what's going to happen. So we launched this workspace with no parameters.json. You do see that we have a nice pop-up now that says allow parameterization for connections when your project loads. So you can at any time hit yes, and all your projects from now on will just be parameterized. So we're just going to ignore this and hit no for now, just to show the next action. So when you decide to generate the deployment scripts, which is in this option here, we have another pop-up that tells you to generate deployment scripts. We would like to parameterize your connections. And if we look at our connections, you do see that it is not parameterized. There's another option where you could just simply go here and just do parameterize. Oops, I guess it's not working right now. Parameterize connections. That would also parameterize your connections. So let's just select that option for now.
Hey,
You
Brian.
can see we have a parameterized connection. Yes, Wagner.
No, sorry, this is Ken. Would it be possible just to zoom in a little bit, just with the font size? Thanks.
I am not able to zoom in on my computer.
Control Shift plus. Control Shift plus. Zoom in. There we go.
Here you go.
Yeah, much better. Thank you.
Yep. Here's a parameterized version. So let's move to the next project that I have, just to show more. Again, we do not have a parameterized connection. So in this case, I have to wait for everything to start up. But we're also going to ignore this time. And we're just going to select the parameterization when we generate deployment script. So we're just going to hit yes. We can exit. You can see we do have a parameterized connection. Finally, I want to show when we actually accept the option. You can see we have no parameterized connections, and let's go to no param 4. Also no parameters.json. So once we launch this, trust the authors, and we accept this, you can see the parameters.json is created. If at any time you want to stop this behavior, you can simply go to your extensions, extension settings, parameterize connections, and you can just reset this so that you can get the pop-up every time. Let's go to our no param floor, which also does not have parameterization. And so once our function starts, you'll see that this would automatically create the parameters.json. So now that we've gone through this parameters.json process, let's move on to the generate deployment scripts. So I do have a nice project I've created already. For this, I have scripts actually generated, parameters already there. So this demo logic app, you can see, is our limitation right now that we would like you to match the name exactly. If for some reason, let's go through the process, you can select any other resource group from which you have created your connections in. And you would want to enter unique names for your logic app name, the storage name, and your app service plan name, which I have just done. And so you see that within this deployment folder, we have created a new logic app, basically called some logic app name. Our limitation is that we are looking currently in our pipeline when we're doing the CI process to build. So we're exactly looking for this logic app name, and it's since we have set it to some logic app name, it doesn't exist. So if you are in fact trying to use a different name, you would want to replace this this variable with just a hard-coded name of your logic app that you've created. If we're looking at the templates for our connections, you can see we have very generic connection templates, and we handle the manage identity for you. All you would need to do is auth on portal after the infrastructure pipeline is run. Same thing for your key vault template, SQL, your Custo, and SQL. They're all the same. Our logic app template would be the name of your logic app, and it has your app service plan in here. Or it has your logic app plan. It has your app insights, your storage account, and everything required. What I do want to talk about is the connections.json. And our manage API connections, in this case, we have ARM2, we have these keys, right? ARM2, Custo, SQL, Key Vault. And they are the same names that are generated for the connections ARM templates that we provide for you. But what you would notice is that in this case, for Custo, it actually maps to a resource in Azure that we'll deploy called Custo2. And so in our Custo parameters.json, you will see that our connection name is actually mapped to Custo2. And all the other templates, they happen to match. So you'll see that they are the same. Key Vault is also the same. Next, let's talk about the CI pipeline. So we have created this standard build process where we're essentially taking this source folder, right? So that would be this, it would be this IAC demo logic app 4, which we're passing as a variable in our CI pipeline variables. And so we are copying this folder into a location. We are then replacing that parameters.json with this parameters.json that we have created for you. This is our cloud parameters.json. And then we are zipping this. So we put this basically parameters.json into this logic app here. We zip it, and then we publish this as a pipeline artifact to consume in our CD pipeline later. The next step it doesn't matter. You could build your infrastructure first. It's an infrastructure pipeline. So in this case, we're copying all the ARM templates in this infrastructure folder within the deployments. We're copying all of these over to a directory that we can use. We first deploy the Logic App template, and we use our Azure Logic App Standard Connections deployment tasks in order to deploy all of these connections that here. So we do have requirement that if you are modifying these templates, we do hope that you, let's take SQL for instance, we do hope that you ensure that there's only one resource. You can have a nested resource, but we want to have only one resource to deploy. So we are looking for this type, Microsoft.web.flash connections, in order to determine that this is a connections template. What else I would like to explain about this is that some of you may have tried our private preview in which you've seen that there have been multiple steps. We've basically simplified this process down so that we are updating all the app settings, setting that up so that it's one call instead of one per connection. Next, we have our CD pipeline. In our CD pipeline, some caveats are that you would want to change your this field, the source, to the name of the CI pipeline that you've created on Azure DevOps. I will show that shortly. So in this case, we're basically uploading the zip bundle into, we're doing a zip deploy to the app service so that your Logic app will run. So now let's move on to the standard task. So I just want to show that we do have an extension available on Marketplace. It describes all the 3 tasks that we've created, describes the different usages, how you would use it. If you decide to use a different parameters file, we show how you can pass that in. We show the usage of our connections deployment, some limitations of it, and for our release tasks, we also show the different usages. Next, let's go to basically I've pre-uploaded and source controlled this project, which is the exact same as here. So if we look at pipelines, you'll see that I have named this pipeline IAC demo Logic App 4 CI pipeline, which is the exact same name here. And so this basically tells our CD pipeline that after our CI pipeline runs, we would execute. Let's go back to our repos. Let's go through the pipelines a little bit more in depth. So in our CI pipeline, we have a trigger on main. So anytime you put a new push into your repo, the CI pipeline will just automatically run. If you do not want this behavior, you can change the trigger to something else. You can also do the same thing for your CD pipeline. You can change this trigger, change these triggers, customize it to your scenario. So back to the pipelines. How to create this? You simply just do a new pipeline, Azure DevOps, select your repo. In this case, it's IAC demo Logic App 4. We're going to select an existing one from main, deployments, IAC pipelines. Select the pipeline, and you'll see that it'll preview. We'll just hit a review and just name your pipeline. That's how simple it is. Let's go back to our pipelines itself. That's basically it.
Let me come back. Thanks. Thank you, Brian. I just put the links for the marketplace, right? So if people wanted to see that, and if I go back to my screen, just reminding that this is going to be live. We're planning to get that in public preview by April 5th, like by the end of the next week. But keep your eye peels on AIS Tech Community blog, because that's when you're going to have the announcement. Let's have a quick chat, and I wanted to also bring to the stage Nidhi, that was one of our tech lead during all of that. So let's have a quick chat about this process. And one thing that I forget, like good host that I am, I asked to ask you to introduce yourself, Brian, and also now that Nidhi is here, that introduce herself as well. So you can start with you, Brian.
I'm Brian. I'm one of the developers that worked on this project. That's basically it. Worked on some
Nidhi?
back-end extension tasks.
Nidhi, can
Hi,
introduce
I'm
yourself.
Nidhi. Hi, I'm Nidhi. I've been working with Logic App for around 4 or 5 years. I've been an engineer in the DevOps area for past 1 year. Nice to meet you all.
So you've both been working with this with this feature and some of the other features that we've been creating to improve the DevOps experience, right? So specifically around that DevOps process, what are some of the challenges that you personally saw trying to bring this feature out, right? You can go Brian first and then Nidhi.
As I was going through iterating and getting the templates and pipelines to where we needed to ship, it was quite a painful process to figure out all the dependencies, what we can do so that when users redeploy the infrastructure, they don't have to re-auth. Just figuring out all these nuances that are not really documented, so that users have a very nice, cohesive experience. And I think that was a very big challenge. And testing it, I definitely felt the pain of users who are trying to do this, because these are not very easy to set up on your own. You have to look at all these different ADO tasks to figure out your use case. You have to use, I think I counted in our initial private preview sample, we used probably 7 different Azure tasks, and 1 open source task dependency. And there are some tasks that would make this a lot easier, but they only supported some use cases. They couldn't support bulk app settings, which would make your YAML file a lot cleaner. And so trying to simplify that for customers, that was a very big challenge. And so that's why we created these extensions that we have demoed as well. We've shown, just so that users can just use a one-stop shop, just to cut down the number of tasks they would use. For instance, for connections, in our initial implementation, users would have to use 3 different tasks to deploy a single connection. And that doesn't account for even redeploying the connection, because we would have to re-get the ACLs and make sure, and that was failing initially. So we've accounted for that in our tasks, so that users don't have to worry about any of that. You don't have to deal with that. We take care of that on the back end for you. And so it's pretty seamless right now. If there are any bugs, please report it so we can fix it so it meets your needs.
Cool. What about you, Nidhi? What is the complexities or the challenges that you see on
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, just to add on what Brian said, I think the main pain point that surfaced very early on is the connection management. Connection in general, the connection management is very behind the scene, managed by the service and the designer itself. But when it came to setting up the CI/CD pipeline, the customer would need to like kind of understand these concepts of connections, ACLs, which are pretty complex in a way. And we could kind of understand where the pain points are coming from with respect to connection management. And I think that's where we kind of iterated, collecting feedback from customer, helped us shape the feature to reach to the public preview point. And another point that also this came up very early on in the design discussions when we were doing these design discussion is the generalizing the templates enough that they work for majority of the scenario while not trying to make it very specific, but it should address all the specific pain points that customer have provided feedback us on, like connections, managed identity, transitioning from key to managed identity during deployments. So like trying to make sure that there is that balance between keeping scripts generic enough that works for majority of our customer scenarios.
And still making in a way that if they wanted to extend, if they wanted to plug in, reuse some of that plugin on what they
Yeah.
already have, they wouldn't be locked
Yeah.
on a solution that we have to recreate. Yeah. So I think you answered that question, but both of you, while was talking about that, but just in case, why you think that is like what do you think that the impact of that feature is going to be for customers? Like why it is important?
Yeah, I can with that. So one of the main so we have had like blog posts in the past around setting up the CI/CD pipeline, but the main reason we wanted to make this feature more of a first class, that you can generate these scripts from the VS Code itself, is because the whole setting up the CI/CD pipeline, generation of the script, this was a lot of manual step, and more important, it was a lot of it's significantly error prone. So it would take a lot of time for customer to set it up correctly, test it. That iteration of getting the pipeline ready end to end was very, very long. So I think this feature will cut down that time significantly, because we would generate these scripts which are like kind of targeted to your project. We take care of generating the right templates for your logic app, for your connections. So there is minimal to no additional customization that user will have to do on top of these generated script. Uh, the few things that will change are like mostly environment specific, which are expected to change. So I think that will be a big win in the CI/CD area.
That's perfect. Yeah. I think it's like being a consultant before being a product manager. I totally see like having that available to us is a big win. Hopefully that the people on the audience is going to agree with that, and is going to agree after they started using it. Anything that you wanted to add, Brian?
Yeah, I think it's really easy. It makes it easy now to just redeploy your infrastructure, or even move your infrastructure and your whole logic apps to a different space. If you wanted to move regions, if you needed to, for some reason, needed to take down infrastructure and needed to bring it up quick, like this will satisfy all those use cases. So I think it's very helpful to just be able to easily deploy your logic apps without spending the effort to recreate these scripts per logic app that you're using, or per project, like individually manually doing this. I think the automation is just so powerful for this scenario.
I actually remember that you were doing this a similar demo this morning for our internal team, and the first thing you did was like delete everything. 10 minutes later, everything else was there because it was all scripted and ready to go, but you didn't have to spend a lot of time creating those things before.
Yeah.
So I totally agree. Last question before we go to our next topic here in the show. What we can expect in the future from this feature? We see that is going public preview next week, sometime next week. We have right now support for ARM templates. We have a couple of places where we still needed to do some manual work. What customers can expect in the future from this feature?
I think we are looking right now into
Yeah, I think
doing bicep templates.
just
Oh,
I
go
think
ahead,
you're
Nidhi.
having a delay, Nidhi. So
go ahead. Go
let's
ahead.
go. Nidhi go first, and then Brian.
Yeah, so I think other than like, so for first of all, we're looking for a feedback from this public preview feature, so we can identify any other gaps or any other feature needs that customer have for CI/CD pipelines. And the second is we are going to add the deployment slot support to IAC as well. We'll be releasing deployment slot first class feature in upcoming weeks, and then now that deployment slot will be supported, we'll be incorporating that support in IAC too. Other than that, we are also planning to add GitHub actions and bicep support, bicep template support in IC2. Right now, we are primarily using ARM templates, but we are looking forward to extending this to more infra.
Cool. Brian, anything to add?
Nothing to add.
Mm-hmm. No, perfect. Well, thank you very much, both of you, to joining and talking a little bit about the behind the scenes on how we get to that to those features. And I know that you're probably going to be coming back again later in the year with some of those other updates that we have. Thank you. Thank you for joining. Let me go back to my screen so we can talk a little bit about next steps. If I can find my screen. There we go. Okay. So I think the next thing that we have here is a little bit of feedback opportunity, right? So we have a couple of surveys that are going on right now. The first one is how to create workflows with Copilot, right? So what do you think, like what are your views and what are your needs if you wanted to create workflows using a GenAI assistant like Copilot? So if you're able to help us, you're going to see that link in the chat soon. So go to aka.ms/survey/workflow assistant, and then you can give us some information on help us to mold how this feature is going to be looking like. The other area that is similar to that, but now thinking more about easy to get started, is what are your views on pre-built templates for logic apps, right? What type of templates? How do you think that should be useful for you to work as we're starting to think about how we're going to revamp that experience? And for that, you can go to aka.ms/survey/templates. One last thing that we don't have here, but it's a question that Divya, that is driving this, asked us to ask you, and please add that on the chat if you can, is what are the Azure services that you're using together with AIS, right? Like what is usually the type of workflows and the type of services that you're using when you're creating those workflows? That is going to help us to define like and funnel like those pre-built templates. And with that, I think we come down to the end of your show. But I see that we have some questions on the audience. So Kent, do you want to join as well and start bringing some of those questions? I have to look. Okay, so the first one is about support for TLS 1.3. I'm not sure what are our plans with that one. but I can try to discuss that with our internal team, and then share that on the North Show. Do you have any updates on that, Kent?
No, I don't. It was also be good to understand like where they're looking to use TLS 1.3. Like, is that within a connector? Is that sort of other like areas internal to the Logic App plan? So it'd be good to understand a little bit more about like where they're looking to use that as well.
Yeah, it's that the app itself is when you're dealing with connectors, right? That's a good point. Our next question is, sorry, I'm on a different screen for that one. What would love to see Logic App support for flex consumption plan? So it's not in our immediate roadmap, but it's something that we making sure that we're going to be discussing with the functions team closer to when they get GA. I think that's our current plans, right, Kent?
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Like naturally, there have been some discussions internally, like certainly functions needs to GA that before we would think about anything related to that. I did post a follow-up to Josh. So Josh, thanks for responding. And it was just more like, can you explain like what is in flex consumption that you would find attractive? And it seems to come down to, consumption today is a multi-tenant service. It is something where you've got those endpoints exposed publicly when you have outbound traffic that is also goes over public networks, versus Logic App Standard, where we do have more control. We can expose things as private endpoint. We can route outbound traffic through a VNet. Looks like cost is one of the drivers for the need here. So that's just some additional context.
So is the idea of bringing best of both worlds, like the scale to zero that consumption gives to us, but with the support for some of those enterprise grade features that we only have in standard today.
Yeah. This one, I believe you have an update on. Let me post it here. Sorry,
Yeah.
That wasn't it. It was the this one. Sorry, it's one above.
Yeah, there are news on the non-NAC file system connector for Logic App to Standard. Yes, this is there's been rolling out to all the regions, right? It's quite off the press, and we're going to be making an update on that on AIS Tech Community early next week. So keep your eye on that one. It's relatively the simple configuration that you needed to do on your on your Logic Apps application to be able to enable that. But this is coming.
Okay, and then there was another one. Let me just show it here. I don't know why I can't use float double type in switch statements.
That's a good question to double check with our internal team. I think it's today is just the type of the type of what the switch is expecting a string, right? So in this case, it might be that you needed to convert that to a string for that, and then it should be able to use it. But why specifically we only focus it to a string is something that is probably implementation detail from our design team.
Yeah, and just along those lines, I just posted a link to a GitHub repo. So I think in this case, it would be good to log that one in that particular repo. We do have for UX or front end requests or issues. That is a good place to log these things. Our front end engineers are very active in that repo. And, I think either, it's something where if it's a bug, it gets triaged and prioritized and fixed. Or, if there's a good reason why something doesn't work the way it does, then oftentimes that explanation can be provided there as well. Okay, there was another one here. Could you upload the JSON schema for connectors/actions to simplify the identification of the property that can capture errors, as it currently varies depending upon the connector?
Is that for the deployment of the Equitech? With that for the during runtime? Can you just follow up here on the chat?
Yeah, I suspect that's probably more runtime, but yeah, please validate that.
Because like we bring the schema or the manifest during design time. Okay, so for error handling, so the when you get in the error, depending on the error type, you would like to see the generic schema for that error. Is that what we're talking about? Yeah, I think it feels like that could be a good feedback for that on that same on that same registry.
GitHub repo, yeah. And I'd be also curious to know, like, so we do have like a couple expressions that do help with being able to understand the result of an execution. So we've got result, and then I also believe we have action. That could be actions. So also curious if those are also being explored, just to see where you can get the result of an execution itself. So if there was something on a specific action, you should be able to go ahead and include that expression, and it would return more details about that execution itself. So it may not apply in all scenarios, but that could also help those two expressions.
I think the point that he's making here is that when you get down to the error object, it can be different based on depending on the connector, probably because this is being rerouted from end system.
Okay.
Right. So I'm not sure if there is like a silver bullet for that one, because in the end, what the connector does is just grabbing the information from the end system when they're surfacing some of those errors, especially when it comes down to like the 404s or 500 errors, right? Then maybe that's why we don't have one generic schema for that. But in any case, you can see if there is any way for us to surface that in a more structured way.
Gotcha. So I think that's, unless I've missed some, I think those are all of the questions that were raised here.
Okay. Well, with that, I think in this case, is thanks everyone for joining, and thanks for the questions. Hopefully you are as interested or are excited about these new improvements on DevOps as I am, because it's something that we've been trying to get it ready for some time now. Let's just put out the goodbye video, and that's it for today. See you guys again next month.
Yes, thank you.